Does your Subaru STI shift a little rough? It might be time to go ahead and change the gear oil. And well, at least on my car, I know it's time to change it. Over the last 10 years, I've done pretty much all the maintenance, from changing the rear differential, tons of oil changes, and even pulling the engine and doing some resealing. That said, I've never actually changed the transmission oil. And while we push it harder in autocross, I thought it's about time. Even though the mileage really hasn't added up to what Subaru recommends, it really should be changed every couple of years, especially with how hard we drive it. So today, we're going to be showing you how to go ahead and change your gear oil on your 2004 Subaru STI. This does apply to more than just the 2004 STI, but it only applies to the STI and not the WRX that has the 5-speed. So if you do have a 5-speed, the process will be very similar, but it might not be exactly like this. And while doing this is actually relatively easy, it's no different than changing the oil on your car. Well, maybe besides dealing with 2 drain plugs. That said, it's pretty much the similar process as doing your oil. So first, what we're going to do is go ahead and lift up the car. And then when there's enough room to get under the car, we can go ahead and jump under there and start draining the oil. Down here, it's going to be pretty obvious what the transmission is. You're going to notice you actually have 2 drain plugs, as I was alluding to. You have the one right here that we're going to be opening, and then we have the one right here. And to do this, all you'll be needing is a 14 and a 21 mil socket, and you can break them free. And when the car is draining, you can go ahead and take your plugs and we'll go ahead and throw, if you want, new gaskets on it. I am following the factory service manual and they do ask for new gaskets, so I am going to go ahead and replace it. I am noticing the one that came off was a copper one, and it looks like it's been replaced by one of their carbonate, kind of like multi-material crush washers. So maybe it's a good point to go ahead and upgrade it. And then you can clean off if you have a little bit of shrapnel on your plugs, which I actually noticed it's not too bad. There's a little bit of material, but it's not too bad for the way we drive this car. And once you have that all done, you can pretty much go ahead, jump back on there, go ahead and reinstall the plugs, and we can go ahead and start filling it. And with the plugs in there, you can finally go ahead and torque it down. The transmission side, or the kind of the clutch side they call it, which is more forwards, is going to be torqued to 51.6 foot-pounds, and the rear one's going to be 32.6 or 32.9, and that's going to be your like little tiny transmission pan. Unlike whatever the previous owner torqued this one to, it was an absolute fight to get it to. So we'll go ahead, torque these up, and then we can go ahead and fill it up. And if you're like me and had to fight to get the plugs out of the transmission to drop the oil, you're probably thinking the worst is over. Well, if you're familiar with these Subarus, especially the turboed ones, the dipstick, which I really hoping you use to check your transmission oil, is right down here. It is impossible to get at, especially with this air oil separator and the intercooler on the way. One of the tips that people recommend if you're doing something with the intercooler, good idea to go ahead and change the transmission fluid while you're at it. But this intercooler is good. We've got updated hoses and everything, so we're not going to be pulling it off. What we're going to be doing to get in there is grabbing one of these bendy funnels, and actually it's got about a foot of kind of flexibility, and we're going to feed it right down here into where the dipstick is and be able to go ahead and dump our oil in and hopefully fill it up, no problem. And with the funnel just barely in there, you almost need like a 2-foot slinky funnel to get in there. We're going to go ahead and fill it up. What we'll be using is Gear 300. It's pretty common on all the Subaru forums for what everyone's running in the transmissions. And well, it's overall just a really good oil. That said, you're using about 4.3 US quarts in the gearbox on this thing if it's completely empty. So you're going to be looking at like, I don't know, 4.1, 4.2. So you're going to have to get yourself 5 of these, which is nice if you have other Subarus, because I have my other Forester. My Forester actually will take this stuff in the front differential, so I just have a bunch of it on hand at all times. So with that being said, wish me luck as we go ahead and fill this guy up. And with the gear oil successfully in there, it means that we can go ahead, drop it back to the ground, and check air levels for one last time before we successfully change the transmission fluid in the STI. And with everything looking good on the dipstick, that means that we have successfully changed the gearbox oil on the STI in the first time in 10 years. I'm interested to see if it changed the shifting a little bit. As you guys saw, the liquid was very dark, which obviously is not something that is super good, although there wasn't a lot of metal on the plug, so I'm not too worried. But that's going to be it for today's video. We're just going to have to see how it performs, and maybe we'll get out an autocross this year. I've been crossing my fingers, but unfortunately all the events have been on weekends that I haven't been here, so I'm hoping we'll be able to make at least one autocross in the STI. But let me know down below if you want to see the car back on the track. And with that said, don't forget to go ahead and check out Flat 4 Off-Road for all your adventure Subaru needs here in Canada, as well as the channel memberships for some exclusive perks. I'll be seeing you guys in the next adventure.